Howdy there, ladies and gentlemen. A little impromptu video here. I got some good news to share with you guys. Some maybe great news on a few different fronts, okay? So we're going to be all over the place in this video. We're going to talk about Tesla. We're going to talk about the planet. Yes, the planet stock. We have not talked about that. I got some great news in regards to that. We're going to talk about Nike in this video. We're going to talk about Foot Locker. We're going to talk about home building. We're going to talk about a lot of different random subjects. Today I mentioned Tesla. We're going to speak about Tesla a little later on in this video. A lot to share with you guys. Appreciate you joining me. Thanks for being subscribed. Bunch of things to talk about here, okay? So first off, I saw a Cybertruck in the wild yesterday. This is probably the fifth Cybertruck I've seen in Las Vegas so far. And yeah, this one was just parked at where I was at, and I got to take a picture. I posted this because, Cybertruck just gets a lot of debate. People either love it or they hate it. People tend to have very strong opinions on it. But guess what? The vehicle was that not only was I taking pictures, but every single person that walked by it was looking at it. And I was in an area that not a lot of people, I think, around there that educated on a Cybertruck. So a lot of people were like, what the heck is this thing? Like, what is this parked here? And so there was and the people that did know were like, what? This is a Cybertruck? Like, this is crazy, right? So obviously just a massive attention getter for Tesla for the next several years. So anyways, I just thought that was random, okay? No, and we're going to talk about Tesla, full self-driving, and some exciting things going on there in just a moment, okay? The planet. Went by the planet today. Very busy at the planet. Now, the planet location here in Las Vegas, this is their real crown jewel, in my opinion, for the company at the moment. Maybe down the road it changes and they have something that overtakes this, but this is really the crown jewel of the company. That's probably the busiest I've seen the planet in a long time, just to be quite frank. And what was fascinating is almost all the parking spots were taken up. And keep in mind, planet has parking all here, and then basically they got parking all here, parking all back here, and then a little bit there at the front. But the planet, because it's right off the strip, it does a lot of like drive-in. Like, you're always going to see tons of taxis coming in and out of here, tons of Ubers, Lyfts, taking people all in here, because let's imagine you're staying, at some property on the strip. You're probably not going to walk over. You could walk over, and it does get some foot traffic, but most people, and a lot of people when they come to Vegas, they're not renting a car. So you take an Uber, Lyft, whatever. So the great news is, and this is how you know if the planet's really, really busy, the great news is, not only were almost all the parking spots taken, but there was just cars coming in and out constantly. And so this was very, very good news to see, because I have not seen it like this in a while, quite a while, I'll be honest. And the other fascinating thing is they just opened up a consumption lounge at the planet. And this consumption lounge just opened a few days ago. And you might not understand, like, why is this such a big deal? It's a huge deal, okay? Because in this consumption lounge, you can actually enjoy the product that the planet sells. Now, the reason that's important is because on the Las Vegas Strip, you can't technically use the product. It's actually illegal. If you go to your hotel room and enjoy that product, it's technically illegal. Even if you use it on the Strip, it's technically illegal. Now, some people do, and if you ever walk on the Strip, you're going to smell it, but at the end of the day, it's technically illegal. So having the consumption lounge is massive, because now people can actually enjoy the product there while they're there, right? And then keep in mind, most people end up taking an Uber, a Lyft, a taxi, whatever, out of there. So, it's no issue, right? So this is a really good thing. It's going to give a lot more branding for the planet. It's going to get people to spend a lot more time at the planet because before it was just almost like a drive-through in terms of, like, you go in there, you get your product, and then you're out. Now you can actually use a product. And guess what? If you use some product, you might buy some more product while you're there, right? And you might invite your friends or, whoever else you're with on the Strip at that particular time. So I think this is massive. And it looks like they start out very modest in terms of the size of it, but that property is huge there that they have. And so if this is like a major, major success, they could expand it more inside the building they currently have. Okay, so this is, I think, very, very exciting for the planet. And I don't know if that's the reason it was so much busier today than I've seen it, but I will say that's pretty darn massive. And I took a little video for you guys here to just kind of show you kind of what was going on. But yeah, man, it was great. It was great to see it busy like that, because it's been quite some time. Now, obviously, the planet has a lot going on inside the business mall outside of just the Vegas location. They got the Cali location that the CFO on the last conference call was talking about. That one's just about break even, which is very exciting. And then obviously they got the Illinois opportunity that we should see come to fruition this year, and then the Florida opportunity should be the biggest opportunity by far and away for the company. But yeah, man, I was pleasantly surprised by that. I was not expecting that, right? And in terms of the stock, I mean, the stock's been just about everywhere over the past few years, right? This was a $1, $2 stock prior to Rona. Then stimulus came, and I mean, it was like crazy. I'd never seen the plant at that level. This is probably the closest I've seen it since the stimulus days. Back when, the government was just giving everybody all this money, and I never seen the plant that busy. It was like lines out the door. Like they had to do wraparound lines. It was like ridiculous. This is probably the busiest I've seen it since the stimulus days. And obviously, they started posting some ridiculous numbers and some insane growth rates. You look back to those growth rates they were posting in, the back half of 2020, and then the growth rates they were posting in 2021, they were off the charts. And that's why that stock went from like $1 stock all the way up to $7+, right? And then came the crash because the business got hit hard. The pricing in terms of the product all went down massively. It looks like we've hit a floor in terms of pricing, and it looks like business is picking up. So the planet, it's one to keep an eye on. We'll see where it goes. But I thought that was great news, man, because and for a stock that hasn't had great news in what has seemed like 2 years, I'll be honest with you guys, 2.5 years, it seemed like this, it's been since this company's had some good news. So to have some good news is very, very exciting, okay? Next up here, so I saw this when I was on the strip, by the way. This was one of those like self-driving vehicles, and I just thought it was so silly, right? All these cameras, all this ridiculousness on top, and here I am with Tesla. I now got the full FSD for a month, trying that out, because before that I've only had the the autopilot, and I gotta say the experience has been pretty darn good. It's made me more bullish on Tesla overall. Is it as good as a human driver? No. And when I say that, it's not that it necessarily puts you in unsafe situations. If anything, it does the opposite of that. It's that it's too timid. It's too scared, right? And by the way, I think these cranes have been up here for like 10 to 20 years now. Did you guys know that? It's just a completely random thing. Literally, I think they've been up there for 10 or 20 years. You could research that. Venetian cranes up. I think they've been up there for like 15, 20 years or something insane. But in terms of Tesla, here's a little video for you guys. I filmed this one the other day. This was actually probably my second or third time using it. And, it's just fascinating to see all the cars moving, all the lights and whatnot. And, how all this technology works. It's unbelievable. And I take it back to that photo I showed you, that other vehicle, right? Tesla's able to accomplish this with just the cameras on the car, right? They're able to accomplish this with just the sensors, the cameras on the car, and the AI. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what Tesla can do. And,
Come on, don't drive like a grandma.
Yeah, so this, I had it on just the normal mode. I have turned it up to assertive, but I think they need to be even more assertive than kind of what the car is right now. But basically, you just type in, wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
I was going to this taco place at this moment. So you type in wherever you want to go, right? And then it'll take you there. Like, it's literally that. It's that. And you hit that button. You hit this button right here. Boom. And that's it. Now, you do have to touch the steering wheel every once in a while. It seems like it varies, though. Sometimes it seems like I got to touch the steering wheel every 10 to 20 seconds. But then we were messing around the highway, testing it out, a friend and me, right? And we found that we didn't have to touch it for it was like over a minute. So I'm like, that's weird. Like, I don't know. And also when it's turning a lot, I've also noticed you don't have to touch it. So, and my friend was like, why, that's dumb that they do that. And I was like, I think it's something for the regulators. Because I don't think the regulators, regulators are scared. And what happens if this happens? I think it's also for probably Tesla liability, that they don't want to be full FSD yet in terms of taking all onus off of them, because if somebody gets in an accident or something, they're going to try to sue Tesla. But now, since they say, you got to keep your eyes on the road, you're responsible for this, it's a whole different situation, right? But yeah, it's freaky to just see the steering wheel turning wherever you want to turn and whatnot, right? Now, somebody told me you can have it park in a parking spot. I tried it out. Maybe I did it wrong, and not for this particular time, for another time today. Didn't work out that way. So I don't know, but yeah, there were some people in my private stock group that were telling me that you can have it actually park in a spot. But this just kind of took us to the plaza right where the taco place was at, and then just kind of left us there. And it's kind of like, okay, take it from here. Now, this is genius. I love this. This is like such a Tesla thing to do. Basically, when you disable like that, this little message pops up. And if you want to, you can send feedback by hitting the little microphone button. I do that, I would say 90% of the time. And I'll just say, oh, I wasn't moving fast enough, or, I wasn't comfortable with it handling that situation, or I'll, just give some sort of feedback. Now, I don't know if they have an AI reading what I'm saying, and then they're like compiling everything together, because I'm telling you, I'm not the only person that's doing that. Some of you guys watching this video, you might do that as well, right? There's probably getting tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of these voice messages a day, right? A day. Because think about how many Teslas are on the road, how many Teslas have, full FSD. I mean, that's a lot of people sending a lot of audio messages. Some people probably don't send it. They probably just disable and don't care. But I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that do. And then you might do a few each time you drive. And so I don't think they have a human listen to it. It's got to be some sort of AI voice reading everything and then collecting data and understanding, oh, it was having trouble merging, or it was taking a corner not human enough, right? It was taking it too timid, or whatever the situation is. That's what I believe is probably going on there. And then from my understanding, the AI is also basically recording what was going on in the car, the cameras, the sensors, and compiling all of that, so it does an even better and better job in the future. And so that's where this gets into a big AI program as well. It's way bigger than just understanding, like those cameras and those sensors on that car I showed you earlier, right? This is way bigger than just some cameras and sensors on top. This is AI understanding exactly what to do in every situation. And that's where Tesla's going over the next few years. Is it doesn't matter what the situation is, it can handle it just as good, if not better, than a human driver, right? So, yeah, overall, since I've been experiencing this, it's made me more bullish on Tesla than less bullish, because I've never really experienced FSD like this. And I understand they've made some big leaps and bounds recently with this 12.3, so I can't speak to the progress that's been made over the past year or two, but I've heard from a lot of people it's big progress. So is it perfect? Is this ready to be a robo-taxi fleet right now? The answer is no. Can I see it getting there very rapidly? Yes. With this stage I'm at, because the main issue I'm seeing is not an issue of safety. It's not an issue of not knowing what to do. The main issue I'm seeing is not driving human enough, is being too timid in situations. Not understanding, like, hey, let's pull up here a little bit faster than that. Like, why do we need to stop back here, then proceed forward? It might sound bad, but it's driving too safe. It's like, I would say it's like when you're like 16 and you're going to go get your license and you're driving with the one who's grading you in the car. And you're like literally trying to be as perfect as you possibly can and driving as timid and slow as you possibly can. And people are like what okay, that's how this car is driving. And that's what my friend was saying, as well. It's like, get going, like you're just driving too slow. So, but anyways, more bullish on Tesla than ever. This is completely random, and this is probably the only bad news I have for you guys, maybe. So what you're looking at here is the strategic oil reserves that we have here in the United States of America, and it's way down there, right? We're down to levels pretty much that you saw back in the 1980s. Now, this is very troubling because oil's already running a lot. We're about to go in, oil's going to start pricing for summer over the next few months. And so this isn't a good situation if the United States, if we decide to start filling back up the strategic oil reserves, right? In a time period when, let's say, oil's already going up and maybe we have more geopolitical conflicts that could cause a situation where oil price goes up considerably this summer, which can then cause more inflation, which then leads the Fed to stay higher for longer, which could end up leaning on the economy and eventually causing a bad recession, right? Eventually, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now. So this is, I don't like this situation. I would have loved to see us get back up to these sorts of levels of, let's say, 500,000 or so. I would have loved to see us do that over the past 6 months. Like, you look at where oil price has been over the past 6-9 months, like, why not have done it then? Wintertime, fall time, that's usually a good time if you're going to do something like that. And we're holding out, and it could be for political reasons, right? But I can tell you, it's much more detrimental when we got an election in November, if you're the ones in office, right, it's much more detrimental to you, and you played yourself in the end if you wait. Because if you wait and then you start trying to fill this up back, let's call it this summer, when oil prices all of a sudden going to 100 plus, and then word gets out around this, I mean, oil's going to 110, 120, 130 in that situation. And oh boy, you want to talk about being, have people start paying $5, $6, $7 a gallon right before the election. Whew, you stand no chance in that situation. So I don't know, man. I think they've made some pretty bad mistakes in regards to that. We'll see where that shakes out. It's one of the few bad news I have for you guys here today. Okay. Now, okay. So I've spoken to salespeople at Toll Brothers and Pulte Homes in the past 2 weeks, okay? Now, keep in mind, these sales folks I've spoken to in the last 2 weeks, this is Las Vegas, okay? So, I don't want to speak for the rest of the country. I don't know what exactly is going on in Oklahoma right now, or what's going on in Mississippi, or what's going on in Seattle, or San Francisco, okay? I'm just speaking about what's going on in Vegas, real estate, new homes, okay? Toll Brothers and Pulte specific, two giants out here, okay? Toll Brothers. Demand is insane still for new homes. And you might think, how is demand for new homes insane with interest rates up here and the type of prices they're charging for these new homes? It just is. It just is. And the demand, even for this new community I was looking at, right? And I kind of felt the guy out. He actually, this sales guy, the sales manager down there, it's crazy story. He used to be a paper trader for Goldman Sachs. And when I say paper trader, I'm talking about back in the day on the commodities exchange when they used to be trading back and forth pieces of paper, like you'd watch in a 1980s or 1990s Wall Street type movie, right? Before everything was electronic and everything like that. They used to write it down on paper. So he used to do that back in the day, then got into home sales after Goldman Sachs started letting a lot of those jobs kind of go to the wayside as we moved into obviously the tech revolution and all that and computers, right? And he actually got to have lunch with Warren Buffett when he was in his 20s just by chance. One guy, anyway, that was a crazy story. So the moral of the story is demand's insane. And I was interested in potentially a lot and building a home on, this potential piece of property. So they wanted $300,000 for this, just the lot. Okay. I'm not talking about the home. I'm just talking about the land for this particular lot. Okay. And, he calls me up and he's like, hey, you're my guy. I want to see if you want it. And I was kind of like caught off guard. I was actually busy working at that time. My mind was in stocks mode. And I was like, can you call me back in like an hour? Like, give me an hour to think about this. So about an hour goes by. He calls me back and sees. In that meantime, I went on and I saw they raised the home prices $25,000 just since the previous week. And so I said, if we can just do for what you guys had last week, the $25,000, I'm very interested in doing it. And he said, no. I said, no? And so I said, okay, that's fine. I just won't do it. Out of the principle, because I'm like, $25,000 is it's not like it's a small amount of money. It's $25,000, right? So I was like, let me keep an eye on that. Let me see if that lot actually moves. Let's see if they really got the demand like that. It sold 2 days later. 2 days later. So they really got it like that. And I'm looking, and almost every lot they put out there is sold quick. Then that takes me to Pulte. So Pulte, talk to them. Pulte's now starting to try to get like Toll Brothers type pricing. It's insane. So Pulte wants insane lot premiums over there. Their home prices are insane. They want they were talking about $160,000 plus for our casita. For our less than 300 square feet. Less than 300 square feet. Casita? $160,000 plus? Go down to Home Depot and buy a shed for $10K. Are you flipping my flapjacks here? That's insane. $160,000 for a less than 300 square foot casita. Make me sick. So, but they really got it like that. They're selling everything. They're selling everything in sight. And so, with mortgage rates near 7%, and with home prices being insane, and these home builders are making almost pretty much record profits, you look at them, even with all that, they're still putting up these insane numbers. And they still, as of right now, once again, things could change 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 18 months from now. As of right now, in Las Vegas, they got it. They really got it like that. They can sell every home they freaking make right now. It's unbelievable. At some point, that's going to change, but for right now, it's still like that. And I'm shocked, not just because mortgage rates are so high, but I feel like a lot of the Californians that wanted to make the move already made the move, 2020 through 2022, right? And so to see there still be that sort of demand, for me, it's just crazy. The only thing I could think is it's just, I got to think it's even more Californians coming over. That's all I can think. I'm just, the whole situation is crazy to me because you wouldn't think it would be like this. I mean, we had mortgage rates in the 3s and 4s for like 15 years pretty much, right? And then all of a sudden mortgage rates go into like double what they were. And then to still see this sort of demand with pricing. I mean, pricing's still near record highs. It might not be quite there, but it's not down that much. And yet, so then there was a rental property I was looking at. Also, this is in the past few weeks. So I was looking at this rental property, right? And these folks look pretty desperate to move this one. So I was interested in it, and I went into contract, and it's like, okay, that's gone. So demand is still there. So the moral of that story is, if you're thinking about the crash in the economy, like, is it here? Is it going to, at least in Vegas, it doesn't seem like it yet, right? Once again, a year, 2 years, 3 years from now, it can completely change. But as of right now, still not here. You can't have, and think about it if you're the Fed, right? You're the Fed, you got the stock market near all-time highs. You have real estate, if anything, it looks like real estate's starting to come back to life more so, right? And if there's this sort of demand, pricing's going to go up. I told you about the Toll Brothers, $25,000. Give them 2 more weeks, they'll be up another $25,000, those homes, and another $25,000. You give it another few weeks. The Pulte pricing was insane. I can't even believe the pricing Pulte's getting out there. And so, I don't know, man. That's crazy. So you look at it as a bad thing or a good thing. If you're in the market for a home, you probably don't like that. But if you want to feel better about the economy, that can give you a little comfort. But once again, how's the Fed lower right now? With real estate doing this type of stuff? The Pultes, you know what they're doing at Pulte? They're making you compete against each other for the land. It's a blind auction. So if you want a piece of land, Pulte, you got to put in, if I recall, it was tens of thousands of dollars just as like a refundable kind of like reservation fee, like good faith type thing. Then they tell you, okay, it's going to be this X amount of price. So whatever it is, okay, $250,000. So you got to say not only you're willing to pay for that, but how much over are you willing to pay? So if you got 10 people competing with, you're like, crap, man, I better go over 30K, 50K, 100K, whatever. It's crazy. Crazy. And it's a blind auction, so you need to put in a high price if you really want that piece of land. So the moral of the story is housing is still there, at least in Vegas. Once again, I cannot speak for the rest of the country. I'm just telling you what I see, what I hear, what the reality is, at least here in Vegas. It's shocking, man. Absolutely shocking. No, I was at the mall today. I was at the Fashion Show Mall, which is across from the Palazzo, Wynn, Encore. And holy smokers, went to Foot Locker. That was no jokers. Foot Locker was insane busy. Like insane busy. I hadn't seen a Foot Locker that busy in a minute. Very, very busy there, which is good to see because this business line has been much slower over the past few years. Kind of like I spoke about the plan, it's been in a tough place over the past few years. Now, one thought process I have, right, is you see places like the Planet all of a sudden getting busier. Once then, maybe that's that new lounge. I don't know. I go by Foot Locker. It was a zoo in there. I was like, this is insane. It was like a can of sardines. There could be a situation playing out here, and I told you guys about this, right, where real wages have started to get in a much better place. Real wages fell dramatically, really, in 2021, 2022, and in 2023 started to come back a little bit. So maybe, some folks are feeling a little better. I don't know. But I can tell you, I had not seen Foot Locker that busy in probably, I go to Foot Locker a pretty good amount. I would say I probably go 4 to 6 times a year, if not more than that. I hadn't seen the Foot Locker that busy and so freaking long. And that's great news, obviously, for Nike. Nike has been not putting up Nike-type numbers for the past couple years, right? They really haven't. And once again, I think as inflation, slicing and dicing, a lot of the folks that, can afford to go to Foot Locker, Nike, these sorts of places. Now, in regards to Nike, there's a stock I'm buying. I have bought Nike stock now. Listen to this. This is going to shock you. I've bought Nike stock 7 straight weeks now. 7 straight weeks. That shows you the sort of conviction I have in Nike that I'm buying that stock every single week. Nike's a stock, you might look at it and you might say, okay, yeah, I get it. Great brand. Obviously, they put up their numbers, right? Profitable company. Boom, boom, boom. But you might look at that one and you might say, okay, but it's at like a 25 PE, right? Well, first off, let's not even talk about the forward. Let's just talk about trailing 12 month. Keep in mind, Nike's reported incredibly disappointing numbers for Nike for the past year, right? So, if Nike gets back on track, right, they're going to likely report much better numbers in the future, which means if you're looking at a stock and let's say it's trading roughly, kind of in market range, maybe a little higher, a little lower, something like that, in a bad time for the company, which Nike's, if you were to look at Nike's past 15 years, this is the roughest the past year it's really been for Nike since probably the great financial crisis, right? Since like 2009. So in understanding that, you got to understand like Nike's going to be way more profitable than when it's a horrible year like it's been for the past year for Nike, right? Now, in terms of the forward P, analysts are way too low, in my opinion, in regards to their expectations for Nike. With the cost-cutting measures Nike's put through here recently, I think that's going to come to fruition. And then if you talk about a demand pickup here, that's going to help immensely. And then in terms of the inventory hangover, there was a big inventory hangover that hurt Nike, right? And I'm talking about, because Nike obviously has big direct-to-consumer business that if you have the Nike app or you go on the Nike website, you just buy straight from Nike, right? But they have a huge wholesale segment. They sell the Foot Lockers and the DKS sporting goods and all these other, big retailers that sell their products and Nordstrom and everybody, right? Because we were so hot in terms of selling goods-related stuff in 2020 and into 2021, retailers loaded up on inventory for 2022, right? And then the numbers weren't quite there. So in 2023, a lot of those big orders for the Foot Lockers, the DKS sporting goods, or Nordstrom, or whoever it was, right? They weren't there over the past year because all those retailers were working through all the old inventory, trying to discount stuff. Like they had way too much inventory. Now, if you look at a lot of these retailers and where their inventory levels are, they're down substantially. So what we should get back to over this next 1 to 2 years is normal ordering patterns. Now, if you talk about demand pickup for Nike on top of that, then you're talking about incremental, extra help there, right? And you're talking about much healthier margins because now Nike doesn't have to compete against a Foot Locker who's marking that product down 40%, right? And that person says, I don't want to buy it from there. I'm going to buy it over here because I can get it for much cheaper. So you're talking about getting that out of the way. So Nike's just a steal. I'm buying every flip and share. I root for that stock to go down every day. I bought it 7 straight weeks. And if the stock remains low, I'm going to probably continue to buy it every single week. And that could be for a while here. So I don't think people really understand how good of a deal Nike stock is right now. I think they'll get it in 2 or 3 years from now, and they're going to look back and be like, oh, I can't believe Nike was trading in the 80s. What? That's insane. Right now, I don't think people understand because they're looking at the trailing 12-month P, they're looking at the forward P, and they're like, I don't know. It doesn't look like that great of a deal. It looks like okay. I think very shortly in the next few years, these are going to look back and be like, oh, whoa, they end up being way more profitable than we expected in 2025, 2026, right? And then that's going to cause a whole situation that should be very, very interesting in regards to that. Next thing you know, you'll see Nike $150 a share, $160. And the thing with these stocks is once they start turning around those numbers, everybody flocks to it. Everybody wants to own Nike stock. Maybe some retail folks don't, Every freaking Wall Street hedge fund wants to own Nike stock. Every good investor wants to own Nike stock. It's one of those type of stocks that you're like, I wish I owned it. It's as quality gets. You don't have to worry about it. It's like, okay, they go through a tough time with their numbers for a year or two, and then the next 5, 10 years are great for them. So you're like, okay, every 1 to 2 years is tough out of a 10-year span. I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week, right? And so, anyways, that's just a steal deal. But we'll see. 2 years from now, I think everybody will understand what was going on. It'll probably even be faster than that, though. I think even a year and a half from now, people will like wake up and be like, oh. I'm shocked. I'm like, who's selling Nike to me for $80-something a share? Who's doing that? I'm like, thank you. Give me the gift. But it's just like crazy to me that somebody would be doing that. I'm just like, that's insane. And the thing is, it's not like it's retail. If SoFi stock sells off big, okay. By the way, SoFi, very competitive with some of their personal loan business. I think they're starting to snag away a lot of business in terms of those personal loans. Because if you look at the rates you can get, what it looks like a lot of people are starting to do is, let's say you got credit card debt. Okay, so let's say you got, I don't know, $7,000 in credit card debt. Okay, so you got $7,000 in credit card debt, and credit card companies probably charging you 25% plus APY on that. SoFi then can come in and say, we'll cut that in half, if not less than half. We'll give you 12.5% APY. And so somebody's like, oh, that seems pretty attractive. So instead, they go ahead, they get that SoFi money, right? If they're approved for that, go ahead, use that, pay off that credit card, right? So then they're out of that, let's say 25% or 27% or whatever these credit card companies are charging now, right? And now they pay SoFi 12.5% or whatever the number is, right? But it's substantially less than the credit card company. Now you say, okay, the bad thing is SoFi now assumes that debt, right? So it makes it risky for SoFi. If that person defaults, fair game. But you're being paid very handsomely, double digit, let's say, returns on that debt there, right? And so then that person pays SoFi. Now SoFi is that's also a great entry way to then attract people to the savings account product, the checking account product, right? So then obviously next thing you know, you're in the whole SoFi ecosystem, right? So it's kind of one of those things that you might not have been aware of SoFi, but they attracted you through that. So yeah, it's banking though. Banking's risky. It comes with risk. That's something you got to keep in mind with SoFi or any bank. I don't care if it's JP Morgan or Wells Fargo or SoFi or Bank of America. It's a risky business when you're going to a recession, right? Especially if it's a big, dark, deep recession and unemployment climbs substantially because money's not paid back in some situations, right? But it's a risk you're willing to take, and that's why you're willing to make 12%, 14%, 10%, 16%, whatever on that money, right? So anyways, that's the moral of the story, guys, okay? Bunch of random stuff there, but I thought I would let you guys know. I hope you enjoyed today's little random video here, folks. We are now, about 7 days away from the big sale? Is it 7 days away? April 15th, the massive one-day sale. If you want access to that, pin comment down there. You get access to my #1 course ever, Become a Master Stock Market, the ability to see the moves I'm making in my Patreon portfolio each week, and ability to get access to that Patreon Discord chat, all for $69. Talk about a steal deal. That's usually $125 for that tier, okay? Pin comment down there for access to that, and we'll send you over the deal when it drops on April 15th. It's a 24-hour sale, okay? Much love, guys. Appreciate you joining me, and have a great day.